Okay, let's talk about Salesforce. This is a company that didn't just sell a product. They sold a whole revolution. I mean, they completely changed the game for how the business world even thinks about software. And they built a $300 billion empire doing it. So how'd they pull it off? And maybe the bigger question now is, can that legendary playbook of theirs survive the age of AI? It all kicks off with, honestly, one of the greatest marketing stunts in tech history. The founder, Mark Benioff, literally staged a protest outside a conference for his biggest rival at the time, Siebel Systems. And his protesters had signs that said the end of software. Now, for a software company, that is a wild, almost nonsensical thing to say. But of course, Benioff wasn't talking about ending software itself. He was declaring war on the old, clunky way of doing things.
You have to remember, back in the late 90s, enterprise software was a total nightmare. It came on CD-ROMs, you had to pay a fortune up front, and getting updates was this painful thing you did maybe once a year. Salesforce just walked in and flipped the entire model on its head. Instead of installing software, you just logged in through a website. Instead of that huge one-time cost, you paid a monthly subscription. And waiting a year for a bug fix? Nope, that was over. Patches could be rolled out anytime, seamlessly, over the internet. This wasn't just a little improvement, it was a completely new paradigm, software as a service, or SaaS. So, that initial idea was the spark. But how do you turn a spark into a wildfire that just takes over an entire industry? Well, you don't just get lucky. You create a repeatable strategy, a playbook that you can run over and over again to win. And that's what we're going to call the Salesforce playbook. The playbook really boils down to 3 core steps. First, as we just saw, they revolutionized everything with the cloud subscription model. Second, and this is crucial, they didn't just build a product, they built a platform, an entire ecosystem. And third, once that platform was dominant, they used it as a launchpad to just aggressively buy up other companies and new technologies. Let's break that down a bit. To really get that second step, the dominate phase, we need to talk about an idea Warren Buffett made famous, the economic moat. You know, like a moat that protects a castle from attackers. An economic moat does the same thing for a business. It protects its profits and its market share from competitors. And Salesforce didn't just build a product, they built a fortress with a massive moat.
So how did they build this fortress? 2 main ways. First, they created incredibly high switching costs. Think about it. Once your entire company, all your sales data, your customer service history, your workflows, is running on Salesforce, trying to leave is this giant, expensive, and super risky project. But their real masterstroke was the app exchange. This created what we call network effects. The more customers they got, the more developers wanted to build apps for the platform. And the more cool apps there were, the more new customers wanted to join. It's just a brilliant, self-reinforcing loop that makes them stronger and stronger.
And that brings us to the third part of the playbook, expand with acquisitions. Once their fortress was secure, Salesforce went on an absolute shopping spree. And the scale here is just immense. They weren't buying little features, they were buying entire industry-leading companies and just plugging them into their platform. You had MuleSoft for integration, Tableau for data visualization, and then the monster deal for Slack, the communication platform for almost $28 billion.
You know, this is a classic way to think about platform strategy. Most companies have to choose to belong to an existing platform, right? Like being a seller on Amazon or an app on Google's Play Store. But Salesforce played a different game. Their strategy was to build their own dominant platform from scratch and then aggressively buy other huge companies to make that platform even more powerful and impossible to compete with. It's a strategy of total control.
So that's the playbook that built this massive empire. But the world doesn't stand still. And the biggest change agent on the planet right now is artificial intelligence. So the real question becomes, can Salesforce take that winning playbook and adapt it for this completely new era?
Salesforce is framing its whole AI strategy around solving this one very specific problem. They've dubbed it the work-worker gap. Basically, it's the huge and growing gap between the insane amount of digital work that needs to get done inside a company and the limited number of human workers there are to actually do it. And their answer? Digital labor. Now, we're not talking about simple chatbots here. This is the next level. Agentic AI. The best way to think about these is not as assistants that you have to command for every little thing, but more like autonomous agents that can learn, reason, and carry out complex, multi-step jobs all on their own. It's a huge shift from reactive AI to proactive, independent AI workers. Their big bet on this is a concept they're calling Agent Force. The idea is to embed these AI agents right into the core of a business's operations. Using tools they already own, like MuleSoft for integration and their data cloud as a central brain, these agents can basically access all the business apps and user interfaces to get work done, all managed through this central Agentforce layer.
The ambition here is just staggering. Salesforce isn't trying to sell another feature. They are going after what they estimate is a $6 trillion market opportunity for digital labor. They want businesses to see their AI agents not as tools, but as a core part of the workforce itself.
And this isn't just some vision for the future, it's already starting to happen. AI is being woven into the entire Salesforce ecosystem. For sales teams, it's figuring out the next best step to close the deal. In customer service, it's deploying human-like chatbots. For marketing and commerce, it's personalizing absolutely everything. The key takeaway is that they're just updating the playbook, use their platform dominance to push AI everywhere.
So it sounds invincible, right? They have a proven playbook, and they're just updating it for the age of AI. But the reality is way more complicated than that. Salesforce is now facing a whole new set of challenges that really puts the future of its empire at a crossroads.
First, there is a massive technical hurdle. Industry analysis is showing that the reliability for these powerful AI agents is sitting at around 80%. Now that sounds pretty good, right? But for critical business stuff, like processing $1 million order, you need reliability that's like 99% plus. That 19-point gap is the difference between a cool demo and a technology you can actually bet your business on.
And it's not just reliability. There are other huge challenges. Trying to scale these systems is incredibly complex. Integrating them with all the messy, silo data that companies have is a nightmare. Garbage in, garbage out. And from a security point of view, giving autonomous agents the keys to your core systems creates a whole new world of vulnerabilities that companies are only just starting to think about.
But you know what? Perhaps the biggest threat of all is coming from inside Salesforce's own ecosystem. Take a look at this company, Veeva Systems. They're a huge player in the life sciences industry. For 15 years, they were a star partner, built completely on top of the Salesforce platform. And then they did something shocking. They decided to break away and build their own platform, cutting Salesforce out entirely. For a platform company, this is the ultimate nightmare scenario.
So why on earth would they do that? It's simple: money and control. For years, Veeva was paying somewhere between 12 to 15% of its revenue straight to Salesforce, just for the privilege of using the platform. By building their own, they could get rid of that massive cost, boost their profits, and innovate faster for their own industry without waiting for Salesforce to make changes.
And this isn't just a one-off issue. Veeva's move has been called a strategic inflection point. It proves that the very partners who made Salesforce's ecosystem so powerful can eventually grow up to become its biggest competitors. I mean, what happens if other industry leaders in finance or manufacturing or retail decide to do the same thing? That whole dominate with a platform part of the playbook suddenly looks pretty fragile.
And on top of all of that, Salesforce is getting squeezed from all sides. You got activist investors on Wall Street demanding better profits after all those mega acquisitions. The tough global economy means all of their customers are looking twice at every single dollar they spend. And internally, the company has had to go through significant layoffs. The old days of growth at all costs are pretty much over. Which brings us right back to the final crucial question. The Salesforce playbook was a masterpiece. It used the cloud, it built an incredible platform, and it used acquisitions to build an empire. It perfectly captured the last 2 decades of software. But now, with unreliable AI, an ecosystem that's starting to splinter, and massive financial pressure, is that same playbook going to be enough to conquer the next era? That, right now, is the multi-billion-dollar question.